Ravens fan, imagine having Myles Garrett playing on our side next season. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it looks like Lamar Jackson has made it clear that he wants to see this monster in purple and black, one of the most dominant pass rushers in the NFL, capable of wrecking any offensive line and completely changing the course of a game. But could the Ravens actually pull off a trade for him? What would it take to make this happen? Stick around until the end because this story could shake up the future of the team. Go Raven! Lamar Jackson hasn't hidden his desire to see Myles Garrett playing for the Ravens. The quarterback reposted an image hinting that the pass rusher would look great in purple, and that was enough to get the fan base buzzing and spark trade speculation. When the franchise's top player sends a message like this, it's impossible to ignore. It could just be a joke, but it could also be a sign that Jackson wants Baltimore to make a bold move to strengthen the defense. If there's even the slightest chance of this trade happening, he's making it clear that he'd love to see it become a reality. The impact of a defender like Garrett in Baltimore would be insane. He's the kind of player who can completely shift the momentum of a game, forcing fumbles, pressuring quarterbacks, and making the defense even more feared. And if there's anyone who knows the value of an elite pass rusher, it's Lamar Jackson. Every week, he faces defenses that try to suffocate him, and having a player like Garrett on his side would ease some of that pressure, ensuring that Baltimore has a defense capable of deciding playoff games. But wanting and getting are two different things. Landing Garrett wouldn't be easy, especially since the Ravens would have to negotiate with a division rival. Trades between teams in the same division are rare, because no team wants to strengthen a direct competitor. On top of that, the price for a player of this caliber would be sky high, likely involving multiple draft picks and even key players from the roster. Not to mention that other franchises would also be interested, making the competition even tougher. Even so, Jackson's move signals something important. He wants big-time reinforcements, whether it's Garrett or someone else. Baltimore needs to upgrade its roster to take that next step toward a Super Bowl. The defense is already strong, but there's always room for improvement, and Garrett's potential departure from Cleveland opens a door that could change the AFC landscape. And that's where the next point comes in. Garrett wants out of Cleveland, and the Ravens need a defender of his caliber to reach the next level. Myles Garrett has requested a trade, and that has put several NFL teams on high alert. We're talking about one of the most dominant pass rushers in the league, a player who can single-handedly change the outcome of a game. He has recorded over 10 sacks in each of the past 7 seasons, and strikes fear into opposing quarterbacks every time he steps on the field. If the Browns truly decide to move him, any team that lands Garrett will get a game-changing piece on defense. And that's where the big question comes in. The Ravens need a player exactly like him to take their defense to the next level. Baltimore already has a strong defense, but last season showed that something was still missing to reach the ultimate goal. The team won 12 regular season games, had a star-studded roster, and even brought in Derrick Henry to strengthen the offense. Yet, they still fell short in the playoffs. The difference between winning and losing in January often comes down to small details, and having a defense that can take over a game could be the deciding factor. Garrett isn't just a good player. He's the kind of piece that makes the entire defense better. The big issue is that wanting Garrett isn't enough. The Browns have to agree to the trade, and that's the biggest obstacle. Cleveland isn't likely to make things easy for a division rival. If acquiring a player of this caliber is already difficult, imagine trying to pry him away from a direct AFC North competitor. Baltimore would have to make an offer that's simply too good to refuse, likely involving multiple draft picks and even high-level players. On top of that, other teams would be in the mix, driving the price even higher. Even so, just the fact that Garrett is available changes everything. If Baltimore truly wants to elevate this defense to another level, they need to at least explore the possibility and evaluate all options. But beyond the trade costs, there's another major challenge. Negotiating with a division rival is never easy, and the Browns won't strengthen the Ravens without demanding a hefty price in return. NFL trades are already complicated by nature, but when they involve teams from the same division, things get even tougher. The Browns know exactly how valuable Myles Garrett is, and if they have to trade him, they'd prefer to send him to an NFC team or somewhere he won't be a direct threat. Baltimore, on the other hand, is one of the top competitors in the AFC North and a team that consistently fights for the playoffs. Strengthening a division rival that's already a contender wouldn't be an easy decision for Cleveland. If the Ravens truly wanted to pull off this trade, they'd have to pay a massive price. That means giving up multiple draft picks and possibly even sending an impact player to the Browns. But even with a big package, Cleveland would still have to accept the risk of strengthening a team they face twice a year. NFL history shows that trades within a division are extremely rare because no team wants to see a former player dominate against them for years to come. Another key factor is the competition from other teams. Myles Garrett isn't just a great player. He's a generational talent, and multiple franchises will be making offers. This puts even more pressure on the Ravens, who would have to compete with teams willing to pay top dollar. If an NFC team, for example, offers a similar package to Baltimore's, the Browns would likely prefer to send Garrett far away. This makes the chances of the Ravens landing him even slimmer. Even so, Lamar Jackson's message is clear. He wants major defensive reinforcements. The front office may not be able to land Garrett, but Jackson's statement makes it obvious that he wants an even stronger team next season. And if the Ravens truly want to reach the next level, they need to think about the impact a player like Garrett could have on this defense. All right, we're already deep into this video, but I noticed that you haven't hit that like button yet. That's super important so that YouTube keeps recommending my content to you, and it helps me keep bringing you more Ravens news. So go ahead and drop a like. It's free. Thanks. Now let's keep going. If Baltimore somehow managed to acquire Myles Garrett, the impact would be enormous. The Ravens' defense is already one of the best in the NFL, but adding a player of his caliber would elevate everything to an even more intimidating level. Garrett is one of the rare defenders who can dominate a game on his own, forcing fumbles, pressuring quarterbacks, and making life a nightmare for opposing offenses. Imagine him alongside Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, and Justin Mattibike. It would be a devastating front seven. Moreover, having Garrett wouldn't only benefit the defensive line, but the entire defense. With a more efficient pass rush, the secondary would have much more ease covering receivers, as quarterbacks would have less time to throw. This would help cornerbacks and safeties make more plays, creating a domino effect that could turn Baltimore's defense into the most dominant in the league. In the playoffs, where a sack at the right moment can decide a game, having a player like Garrett would be a huge asset. However, to make this happen, Baltimore would have to be willing to pay a steep price. If the trade were possible, the team would need to give up a significant amount of draft capital, possibly even an impact player. This could compromise the team's future, but at the same time, it could be the necessary step to win the Super Bowl. It's a matter of risk versus reward. Is it worth paying a high price for a bigger chance to win now? Either way, it's clear that the Ravens need reinforcements to take the next step. If they can't get Garrett, they'll have to find other ways to improve the defense and ensure the team is ready to compete for a title. This brings us to the last point. How viable is this trade, and what can Baltimore do if it doesn't happen? As exciting as it is to imagine Myles Garrett wearing a Ravens jersey, the reality is that this trade is extremely difficult to pull off. Cleveland knows the value it holds and is unlikely to want to strengthen a direct rival. Even if Garrett truly wants to leave, the Browns will seek the best offer available, and Baltimore would need to outbid any other interested team. This doesn't even take into account the impact such a trade would have on the relationship between the two franchises, which already have an intense rivalry in the AFC North. Another factor that makes the trade unlikely is the price. Acquiring a player of Garrett's caliber would require a very high draft pick package, possibly including a first-round pick and several other high-value selections. Additionally, Baltimore would have to deal with the salary cap impact of potentially re-signing Garrett, as he would certainly demand a lucrative contract. All of this makes the chances of this trade happening very slim in practice. But even if Garrett doesn't come, the fact that Lamar Jackson is speaking out shows that he wants change. This could mean that the Ravens will look for reinforcements in other positions, particularly in the secondary, which was one of the defense's most vulnerable spots last season. The front office knows the team is close to competing for a title and can't miss the opportunity to improve the roster further. If it's not Garrett, it could be another impactful name to help the team take it to the next level. In the end, that's what truly matters. Baltimore needs to continue strengthening its roster to ensure the team is ready to compete with the best. If the trade for Garrett doesn't happen, other options will need to be explored to help the Ravens finally take that final step toward the Super Bowl. If Lamar Jackson has already made it clear that he wants Myles Garrett on the Ravens, it just shows how much more dominant this defense could be with a reinforcement of that level. Even though the trade is difficult to execute, the mere idea of having one of the best pass rushers in the NFL playing on our side gives plenty to think about. If Baltimore wants to take an even bigger step toward the Super Bowl, investing heavily in the defense could be a key path. But what do you think? Should the Ravens go all in to try and bring Myles Garrett, or would it be better to focus on reinforcing other positions? Drop your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any updates about the Ravens.